Pat McAfee talking about Jonathan the Toolman Taylor requesting a trade from the Colts and where he would fit best. Now, Pat, former Colts legend, so I'm assuming he's got some intel here. The Jonathan Taylor trade talk is pretty simple, I think. He only fits with a team who would trade for him to win a Super Bowl this year, a la the Buffalo Bills, a la the Miami Dolphins. Teams like that who don't really have a tried and true running back, maybe even the Philadelphia Eagles, and are willing to give him 1 year and then see what happens. I don't think he's a guy you trade for and then sign long term. Unless maybe you win a Super Bowl, then who cares? But for a team that's like middling, I don't think you give up the draft capital to go get him and then look to sign him long term. That doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So I'm thinking it's really only a few teams. Think Super Bowl team, and then think who doesn't have a quarterback or a running back.
Taylor's earned himself a trade. Now, Ian Rappaport, who told us on the program that if he was to go up for trade, there'd be a lot of teams interested. Where I said, really? At this stage of the football calendar, with the amount of money we're assuming he's commanding in a sign-and-trade situation and what the Colts are looking for in return, there's going to be teams interested. That was kind of
the Vikings could be a team. I mean, I know Alexander Madison or whatever is, they like him there. I know they just gave up Dalvin Cook. But if you're looking at them, if you're the Vikings and you say we can give up, the way it sounds to me is it's a first-round pick. So you're giving up a first-round pick for Jonathan Taylor's services with the opportunity to sign him long-term if you want to. If I'm the Vikings or a team that believes they are a Super Bowl threat, I don't think the Vikings are a Super Bowl threat, but if you are one of those teams and you say, well, we're giving up the 29th, 30th, 31st, 32nd pick if we expect to be good. We're giving up that pick for our top 5 running back in the NFL, and we're going to make a push at the Super Bowl. I'm totally okay with that. I'm fine with that. I've been on record saying I would not pay him long term, but it does make sense if you're one of those teams to go do it. If you told me the Bills gave up the 30th pick to go get Jonathan Taylor, yeah, that makes sense. If you told me the Ravens gave up the 30th pick to have Jonathan Taylor along with the rest of their team, that's pretty sweet.
alarming. Ian said absolutely. Now Ian is reporting there are several teams that are interested in having Jonathan Taylor's services this particular season. Now, does that mean at $4 million, which is what he's currently structured to get in his contract,
yes.
does that mean they'll sign and trade him and get him to a number closer to where he wants to be long-term, which was allegedly $17 million at one point? Are these teams interested in giving up a first, or are they interested in giving up like a second and a fifth for the first-round thing? We have no idea how serious all these contenders are, but what we're being told is there's several teams interested. This is good news for all parties here, I think, Boston calling.
Yeah, absolutely huge. I really did not think that there was going to be any. I thought that there was no chance Jonathan Taylor and Melka, or whatever the guy's name is, were going out.
Malky Kawa. He's a businessman.
Okay, well, I thought Kiwi and Jonathan Taylor were going to go out and see if there was going to be any trades, and there wasn't going to be a chance. Who would have the capability to bring this guy in and sign him for what? Not 17 a year, but are we thinking 12 million?
See, they're missing the boat here. I don't think if I was throwing numbers out there, I'm usually pretty close to what happens with this stuff. I think you would see a sign and trade where he would get 1 year, $8 million, somewhere in the middle. He would get like double what he's currently making, but certainly not $12 to $17 million. He'd get like a 1 year, basically a pseudo franchise tag, but he's getting it with a team who has a chance to win a Super Bowl. So if you're Jonathan Taylor, you are fishing for whatever you want, $17 million. If the Bills come a knocking and you say, well, I'm making double money, double my yearly salary, and I could parlay it into a mega deal if I have a good year with the Bills. Oh, and I could potentially win a Super Bowl. All that sounds pretty good if you're Jonathan Taylor, unless it is literally just about the dollars. But if that offer sounds pretty good, I think you sign that, and then you let the Bills make the decision if they want to sign him long term after the fact. But that's how I would see this playing out, and it is a win-win for everybody. The Colts get a draft pick, or they get assets back. Jonathan Taylor gets out of the Colts facility, and then blank team gets a hell of a running back for a chance to win a Super Bowl. So I mean, it really is win-win for all parties if it plays out like that.
$1 million a year, is that what he's probably going to command at some other place?
Don't we always say contracts aren't real, or is it just real in this situation?
Yeah, I don't know. It's like what Jonathan Taylor wants too.
Yeah.
Like have the Colts said, yeah, you can go look and then see what somebody else is willing to offer, and then they're like, all right, well, yeah, fuck, that was what the market said. Here's what you actually get. Did the Colts offer a lesser amount of money and be like, hey, we'll give you $3-4 million more bucks this year, and then that works or doesn't work, or does that work on another team? There's just so much to kind of figure out here, and we are just
15.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
Sorry, the days mushed together a little bit, but I mean, to Tony's point, could probably do the Derrick Henry method, right? Because his was 2 years, actually 28, and it was signed 4 years, 50 or something. Isn't that might be?
Yeah, that's like the Derek Carr method. The Derek Carr contract is whatever it is, 4 years for 80-something million, but it's really 2 years for like 40 million. Contracts, 100%. NFL contracts, sports contracts aren't real. They're not, especially in the NFL. And different guaranteed situations in basketball and baseball, sure. But in the NFL, you're talking about most contracts are probably 60%, if 60% of the actual value. I would say is what you're looking at. So if blank team signs Jonathan Taylor for some 3-year deal, you'd have to really look at it. It more than likely is closer to a 1.5 year deal, especially if the team can get out of the contract.
Be the move to do for Jonathan Taylor then?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely could.
Yeah, it would be.
What teams do you think?
I mean, you just looking at
the teams. I've already laid out the teams. You go Super Bowl first, all right, and then go teams without a running back, and that's it. That's how you do it. That is the list. The Bills make probably the most sense. The Dolphins make a ton of sense. I don't think the Eagles need him. The Ravens make a lot of sense. The Ravens don't really do business like this, though. The Ravens aren't really, this isn't really their style. But after giving Lamar a contract, maybe they're saying, look, we'll give you some weapons. Make it happen, Captain. So they make some sense. I'm trying to think. I mean, like I said, Minnesota kind of makes sense. But it depends on how good Minnesota thinks they are.
looking at the money. Bears make the most sense.
Bears make no sense at all. No sense.
Yeah. But then you would also think like Philly and Kansas City somehow make something happen.
Flus, I was thinking about it yesterday. Eberflus was there the year that he was almost the offensive MVP or did he win offensive player? Or was almost the MVP.
Almost the MVP.
Yeah.
I forget who won the offensive player of the year. It was not him.
Okay.
Tyree.
But like
Justin
Jefferson. Yeah.
But like Flus wasn't there for that bad year, so maybe he's got in his head like, oh,
this guy's unstoppable. You should have seen what he did in practice. He thought the games were good. You should have seen this fucking guy in practice. Coach, last year, not good. He was like, we weren't good last year either. So we're both coming out of the same situation here. Maybe, and you would think that people that are familiar with the player's game would be the one most interested. That seems to be the way it is. You look at DeAndre Hopkins. Whenever he was on the market, it was Vrabel who was interested in Tennessee, who was with him whenever he was down in Houston, and it was Bill O'Brien and Bill Belichick and everybody up there who were familiar with him whenever he was down in Tennessee or in Houston. When everybody else.
See, if I was the Bears, I wouldn't think about this at all, because I'm looking at this like, what are we going to do with him? What are we locking all of this capital in him for? You know, are we planning on being good? Let's focus on Justin Herbert, or not just Justin Fields. Let's focus on Justin Fields first. And you may say, well, James, if you get what's better to a quarterback than a good running game? And I say true. But not when you have to lock in as much money as Jonathan Taylor does, and not when you have to deal with that situation. I would rather, who's their running back? Khalil? The Khalil Herbert is the Bears running back. I'd rather just develop your running backs, develop your team, get something going, and then once you know Fields is the guy, and once you have Fields up to snuff, then you can start bringing in pieces. I would have much rather go get DeAndre Hopkins for Justin Fields than Jonathan Taylor. If you look at, you could have got Odell Beckham and DeAndre Hopkins for the price it would take to get Jonathan Taylor. And if you're Justin Fields, you're the Bears. What looks better? You know, then it would be what, DJ Moore, DeAndre Hopkins, and Odell Beckham is your wide receiver core. Pretty strong. So if you're just going to throw money at assets, that's how I would do it with a young quarterback.
Else in the league was saying, no, Nope, don't want this guy. Doesn't practice, too much money. And then the guys that are with him are like, yeah, okay. So he doesn't practice a couple days a week.
Okay.
How many paychecks do we all get because of a fucking catch this guy? Yep, deal, boom, we're in there. I would assume Eberflus would be a great outlet for that because he does know him. He does understand what could possibly become. And him and Justin Fields.
Yeah.
That'd be a
Hell of a tandem.
fun tandem back there with a weapon on the outside that commands a little bit of respect so you can't just pack the box. Feels like it would make sense for Chicago to get in there. But would they sign him to a long-term deal? Is that what Jonathan Taylor's looking for? And who else might come in here and just sneak in who's like a Super Bowl contender?
There you
like,
go.
if we can get you for $4 million 1 year just because you hate them so bad, we'll try to do that as well.
Yeah, because a report came out this morning about the Bears, like, kind of checking around for the Chris Jones situation because they want to, spend this money and kind of maximize Justin Fields still being on a rookie contract because I assume they, like if he is going to stay there, they're going to have to pay him a bunch of money. But also, isn't it possible that JT that $17 million was his price to stay with the Colts? Like, we don't know what, if all these other teams are
no
coming.
hometown. They're actually paying more.
Exactly.
Did you hear what Jim said? Yeah, they're paying more
quite a bit.
here than somewhere else, which would be wild. That'd be completely backwards than what it normally is.
Right.
So we'll find all that out.
Here's what I will say. Can I tell you what scares me to death? Because your first question was about the AFC East. I'll give you a general AFC East response. Jonathan Taylor could wind up in either Buffalo or Miami.
Yes.
That scares me to death. He is so good. What the hell is going on there with your Colts and Jonathan Taylor?
It wasn't good last year. That's what's going on, is that he won $17 million and he was not good last year. So
Taylor, Patrick,
Greeny,
get
listen.
Get this together.
Yeah, Schefter came on and kind of gave me a little toot as well, and Ian Rappaport gave me a little toot as well. I think the way that the Indianapolis community and the Colts are viewing it is like Jonathan Taylor was the mayor of that team in like everything that we needed. And we're in a full rebuild right now. Brand new coach, brand new quarterback, brand new vibes. It was bad last year. I mean, we had people gambling on games. Yeah. We had people showing up late to meetings, to treatment. Like the whole building basically collapsed. And then obviously what happened in Minnesota is like the biggest comeback in the history of the fucking NFL. Like last year was a dumpster fire and Jonathan Taylor did not play his best football. Now, it's not just Jonathan Taylor's fault, obviously. There's a lot of people that did not play well. So I think in Indianapolis, the thought is like, hey, we are all trying to just get past that.
Well, if you're Indy, if you're looking at it just from Indy's mindset, they were terrible last year. And they went the route of let's get Matt Ryan, let's get these older guys. And we've seen that for a little bit with Philly or with Indy, is that they're trying to bring in these random people, these older players. I think now they're looking at it like we have Anthony Richardson. We're moving forward. We're evolving. We're totally changing the franchise. We don't have time right now to allocate $17 million a year to keep Jonathan Taylor. They'd be much better off blowing everything up, restarting, taking a year or however long to develop Richardson, and then putting pieces around him. It doesn't make any sense to rebuild simultaneously with overpaying for a running back, like a position that isn't even that impactful in the NFL anymore. So for Indy, it makes no sense. Of all the teams in the NFL, Indy is in the top 5 of who it makes the least amount of sense to sign Jonathan Taylor.
That whole thing. So when Jonathan Taylor in April said, I'm going to play through my contract, like that ran in Indianapolis, like local news, like, yeah, this is the leader we need. This is what we need here. And then all of a sudden, new agent, hey, which I hope they get their money. You got to do whatever you got to do. It changes completely. So I think that is why. I don't think it's just like we don't think Jonathan Taylor's a great player here in Indy. Jonathan Taylor's a fucking dog, dude. He's
he doesn't make fiscal sense or roster sense for the Colts. So this is one of the very few good decisions from the Colts front office in a while.
Plays his best football. And given the opportunity, he's incredible at football. But here it's like, I think a lot of people are just like, if you don't want to be here, bub, like,
yeah, get out of here.
Good luck.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that's kind of how I think Indy feels. And that's kind of.
I get it.
Go ahead.
And look, they're not winning the Super Bowl with him this year. So I get it. If they can get a first-round pick or something like that, everything around that team right now has to be based on developing the quarterback. You got to get Anthony Richardson to a place where a year ago today, we're talking about him the way we talk about Justin Fields. Is he the guy knocking on the door of being the next NFL superstar, the next Josh Allen, the next Jalen Hurts? That's where you want to be a year from now. And I get it. Jonathan Taylor doesn't have to be a part of that. So it does make sense if you can get a lot for him, a 1 or whatever it is that adds up to.
It would have been better earlier, though, when everybody had shit, you know? Like,
Well, it would have been better last year or before last year whenever Taylor was considered really, really good. His stock was way down after last year. Trading him off of one of his big-time seasons would have been way better if this is how it was going to go.
When there was a window.
Someone will do it.
Pre-draft.
Someone will do it. Someone will give it to them. Because, look, if the Jets didn't have Dalvin Cook, I would be screaming that the Jets should do it. If the Dolphins do it, I had Sal Palantonio, who is the opposite of me. He's not prone to hyperbole. He's been a reporter for 40 years. He said on my show yesterday, if the Bills get Jonathan Taylor.
See, the Jets but the Jets have Breece Hall, who was good until he got hurt last year. So if you're the Jets, why would you want him? I'm kind of surprised they got Dalvin Cook, because it's like, we got these young players. Let's let them continue to prove they're good. Let's not overpay. Let's not overpay for something. If we're going to overpay for something, I think in the NFL with a lot of these teams, if you're going to overpay for like a tried and true defensive lineman. Overpay for someone like that who individually can dominate, who can individually dominate the game. Overpay for an offensive lineman. Overpay for a defensive tackle. Don't overpay for a running back. Don't overpay for a wide receiver. That's kind of that fantasy football mindset. I think a lot of people see offense, they see shiny. If I could overpay for Chris Jones or overpay for Jonathan Taylor, I'm overpaying for Chris Jones every single time.
Just put them in the Super Bowl right now. And I think that that makes sense to me. So that scares me to death. I think Jonathan Taylor's ultimate destination will go a long way, could go, and I think will go a long way towards deciding who winds up winning a lot of stuff this year.
Hell yeah. And I hope wherever he goes, somebody's going to have to pay him, though, right? That's a sign and trade. That's not just a trade, right?
Right. They have to make a new deal with him. No one will trade for him unless they know they're going to get a deal done with him. But he knows he's...
That's not true. That's not... Well, I mean, as far as a year. But I think you don't have to sign him to a long-term deal off the bat. I do think these Super Bowl teams can sign him, quote-unquote, for a 1-year, 2-year trial for a discount off the $17 million. I don't think you don't have to come to terms with this like 4-year, $65 million deal. I think you can absolutely come to terms with a 2-year, whatever, two-year, $18 million deal, and then have a get-out situation after the first year. Everyone wins. Taylor gets over double what he's making now. He gets a chance to prove himself. He gets a chance to play. Doesn't have to hold out. Makes total sense.
Look, he's for everything. Everyone, people love him, by the way. And I assume you know him personally. I don't. Everybody raves about him. That he's a smart. He knows he's not getting $26 million. He's not getting paid like he's a pass rusher. He's not getting paid like he's a left tackle.
I don't know if that's true, Greeny.
You think he thinks he's going to get paid the amount of money that that some of the big star running backs, those days are over.
Yeah, running backs don't do that.
That's what I think a lot of that's kind of a part of the whole thing as well, because I think he was kind of taking a stand for the running backs as a whole too.
Right.
Remember they had
but he's going to get more than $4 million.
Yeah.
I mean,
he'll get somewhere. His true market value, I would say, is somewhere between 8 and 12 million. 12 is the high end, because 12 would put him on par with like Nick Chubb and Derrick Henry and players like that. But he's not. He's certainly not higher than that. And yeah, I don't think he's a $6-7 million player. So I think he's going to settle in that like 10 million range.
I mean, the franchise number is $11 million. He's certainly worth that. And there are a lot of teams out there that can pay him that. And for him, that'll be a lot of money.
Yeah, but not
and it's a lot
long-term.
more than he's guaranteed to make.
I think you're misreading. I think you're misreading the. I might be wrong, because you would assume that Jim Irsay and Chris Ballard and Jonathan Taylor at some point over the last couple of weeks since the shit has started, where they've gone like, hey, we can give you like $4 million more. We'll make it guaranteed. And then we talk next offseason, it's $8 million. That helps a little bit.
Yeah, I think what happened with that situation was that they were, Taylor went back on the playing out his contract. Irsay is not someone to be trifled with. I think Irsay pushed back. Then I think Taylor got miffed and then pushed back on the pushback. And then I think you had two people who just weren't even going to negotiate. If at the very beginning, if Taylor never says he's going to play out his contract, if Taylor says, I want an extension or whatever, I think Irsay probably would have done 9, 10, 11 million. But the whole process is why it failed.
That's more than Austin Eckler. That's more than a couple other guys.
Yep.
But also, you're going to be a free agent at the end of the year. You would think that would have happened, right? I would hope that would have taken place.
I would assume so, yes.
But then if that did take place, then that means that Jonathan Taylor and team said, no, we want to, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know.
He wants his money now.
Yeah.
I think he wants
to get locked. He wants everyone wants the same thing. They want the security of knowing, all right, I've got a 3-year contract. I've got a 4-year contract. Running backs, they know how quick they can be in and out of the league. They know how short their career lifespan is. So they want the same thing every time. They don't want a franchise tag. They don't want a 1-year deal. They don't want a rental. They want some security.
3-year extension. I'm just making things up here to be very clear.
Yeah, we all are. I don't know shit about fuck either, and I'm in the city, so it's like, yeah.
But if you gave him, a 3-year extension at the kind of money that Saquon Barkley is going to make this year and Tony
Saquon signed it was like an $11 million deal, but I think without incentives, it's probably closer to $9.5 million. So yeah, that's way under what Jonathan Taylor's asking for. He asked for 17. You come back with 10. You come back with 9.5. I don't know how far that goes. Now you could incentive base it, I guess, kind of like how Saquon Barkley's does, but still, that's a huge difference.
Franchise tag running backs. I would have to believe he would take that. And look, he's 24 years old. Listen, at this point, we're just speculating so recklessly now, it's pointless. Here's what I will say. I believe he's going to get traded. I believe he's going to get traded. And I believe if you put him on the Cowboys, they should absolutely do it.
Why would they? Why? Like, if you're the Cowboys, you have to feel pretty comfortable with Tony Pollard. Tony Pollard's good. Tony Pollard has shown that when he gets some playing time, he is a legitimate star back. You got to feel pretty comfortable with Tony Pollard. Why would you rush out and go get Jonathan Taylor? There's so many other things you could do with that money if you're the Cowboys. If you're actually making a push at this thing. Again, what about DeAndre Hopkins? Don't you think it would have been better to have him and CeeDee Lamb and Tony Pollard than Jonathan Taylor, CeeDee Lamb, and Michael Gallup or whoever? Brandon Cooks. I don't think it makes any sense for the Cowboys at all.
And that would shift the balance of power in the NFC.
No,
I think if you put him on the Bills or the Dolphins,
those two make sense.
It could shift the balance of power in the AFC.
Those two make sense.
Tony Pollard's like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
The only thing that does make sense about Miami is that Miami is more of like a short West Coast, short passing. I don't know if Jonathan Taylor fits that scheme. They need a back that's a little more dynamic. Taylor's a little more that downhill running, which Miami doesn't really do. He doesn't. The Bills certainly do. But he would fit the Bills scheme perfectly. The Bills want to do that. They want to run the ball. They want to dominate the line of scrimmage, all that stuff. But the Dolphins really don't. He makes sense for the Dolphins roster-wise. He doesn't make sense for the Dolphins scheme-wise. A player like Austin Eckler would make much more sense for the Dolphins. Even a player like Alvin Kamara makes more sense to the Dolphins.
Come on.
Yeah.
Just sitting down there in Dallas. Jerry
Tony
said,
Pollard should love it. He should love it. My man, Tony Pollard he's an accent piece. Ryan Clark said it great on Get Up. He said putting Tony Pollard in that offense is like driving a Lamborghini into a demolition derby. You give that guy the ball 23 times a game and ask him to run up between the tackles, he won't make it to October. So he needs a workhorse. He needs like Zeke. He needs who Ezekiel Elliott used to be, and that's who Jonathan Taylor is. And then Pollard makes his.
I don't know about that, but if that's true, then yeah. If it's one of those things where Tony Pollard cannot do it, and the Cowboys brass know that, and Tony Pollard knows that, then sure, go get him. Make him your new featured back. Make him your new Emmitt Smith. But it's just hard for me to believe that the Cowboys think that of Tony Pollard. I'm not sure. I don't know how much of that's real.
gets his like 14 touches a game in which he is dynamic and makes big plays, that's what he's meant to be. I think that is a perfect pairing.
Was that your show where he said Justin Jefferson, George Pickens thing, Ryan?
No, he said that. No, we played it, but he
no. We definitely, we certainly got a pop off it. Yeah. We certainly. Hey, Ryan, remember we'll remind everybody. This just happened. Certainly. Ryan, by the way, congratulations to him. Monday Night Football Countdown wins the Emmy last year. That George Pickens, Justin Jefferson.
All right, so we've laid our piece with Jonathan Taylor. Where do you think, in the comments below, where do you think Jonathan Taylor is going to end up, and where do you think he should end up? What's the best fit for him? I'll say Buffalo is my one pick, best fit, should do it, makes total sense to do it. You let me know in the comments below, what do you think? And if you're a Colts fan, let me know how you feel about this whole thing. Are you disgusted with Jonathan Taylor? Thank you very much for watching. I will see you in the next video.